Well, good morning, everyone. Good day. Thank you for coming out to our November session for Saskatoon Testing Discussion Group. I won't go through the room today because I know there's a few bodies in here that are simply using the tables because of the Vendasa event that's going on out in the atrium. Suffice it to say, we're all here to talk about testing. Today we're going to talk a bit about what can be a controversial document in testing, the test plan. And why I say it's controversial is, let's take a look at an example of a test plan. Here's a template test plan that I found on the web. And it is 12 pages long before they have filled in a single piece of information. Everything needs to be signed off on. I see some groans. Some people recognize this document. And it's got all these sections set out that all have to be filled out. 12 pages without any content. And so this is why I refer to it as a somewhat controversial document. If you're from an agile shop, this kind of pre-documentation before the project has even started, all with all a priori knowledge, is sort of an anathema to how you're going to work. But that's not to say there's not really good information in here. And it's not that Agile doesn't want this information. It's not that they don't collect it. It's not that they don't record it. It's just that they might not fill it out ahead of time. So the thought for today is to sort of, in our usual discussion style, start talking about a little bit about test planning, and then into the documentation that goes into test planning at our various shops, to see if there's something that one of us is doing that has value to the rest of us, or something that one of us has stopped doing that, you know, would make sense if we stopped doing too, because that was a really good reason. We're not getting the value out of that item that we thought we were getting. So that's sort of the plan for today. So first, we of course have to talk about what is a test plan. Generally considered to be a high-level document. It talks about the testing. Well, let's be a little more specific about, talk about what needs to be tested, how it's to be tested, when it's to be tested. If you get into some really onerous versions, it's who and what to expect. So let me blow that up a little bit, just a little bit. Still not very easy to read. So there's sort of what we got. Yeah.
It's the resource.
Oh yeah. The resources are going to be used. I could go back to that really highly detailed one to finish filling this out. But anything else that you would want in a plan? Not really. Okay. So if it's going to be this high-level document that talks about testing, if you go to the documentation, they'll talk about test plans and test strategies. Help if I could spell the word. Oh, that's spelled wrong. That's spelled very wrong. And test strategies. Test strategies steal some of these things from test plans, particularly the how it's to be tested, and the when it's to be tested. Those kinds of things would seem to get pulled out into a test strategy to make the test plan a little bit smaller. Particularly when you're doing some sort of continuous deployment. This high-level test plan that sets everything out in stone works really well when you have add deliverable. I don't know how many people still work with systems that have add deliverable. It's a little bit add deliverable or iterative deliverables. Add deliverable. Okay, so Ben's indicated that he's still working with add deliverable. So this kind of this stuff is probably a little bit more. The large document is probably a little bit more common for you. It's completely unheard of for me because I'm doing a release every week. So if I had 180s for every week, well, it'd take me a week to write. So if I was lucky.
I mean, there's no reason, you talk about it as a document, there's no reason, for instance, that you can't have a that include all the resources, to identify all the resources. So your test strategy, for instance, would refer to, oh, we need this number of machines, or this number of servers, and, all of those sort of things. Yeah. And then the test strategy kind of works within a framework and iterates it against that.
Yeah, in a fully agile shop, what would be far more common is you have a reasonably well-developed test strategy that talks about things like how many testers per team, what level of testing they're going to go to, what general test strategies they're going to use, what quadrants of testing that they're responsible for versus the development team is responsible for. And then the test plan wouldn't be about the entire product. It might just be about the features. It would be a very short document, probably less than half a page to a page talking about just what's being released that week and what are the new considerations that have to be tested over and above the stuff that needs to be tested every release that the new work indicates is required. I'm seeing lots of nodding and not a lot of talking. Although there are still lots of mouths full of pizza, so we'll forgive that. So I said a high-level document.
Is that like just subsections there?
Oh, that's a good question. What are the levels? Sort of depends on. Well, let's get right into it. So you have your test plan, you have your test strategy. You can also get a test plan for a feature or a release. You might have a test script. Now you won't run into those working with me, but I know they're very common in other shops. First, below all of this, you have the test case. Test scripts are usually considered to be collections of test cases. And so you'd have a script of these are all the things I need to test for to verify this item, to validate that item. So a test plan for a release might be everything from that higher level document scoped down to just the release and a list of all the test scripts that are required. Now, if you're in an exploratory shop, you could also have session-based test management scripts and reports, as well as exploratory charters. all of this stuff is trying to work together to create a certain amount of thinking before doing. In the old, in the, oh, let's pull it up. In this in what this document is trying to set out is trying to do all of that thinking before development has even started. Now there are sections in here. These are living documents. So I say it's all before, but let's face it. They acknowledge that right in the document that it's going to change over time. A feature is going to get dropped, so the test plan would have to be revised. A feature changes, a feature gets added. So living documents that are going to change. Wow, I am really tripping over my words today.
We used to see a lot of these online documents and we discuss it.
Conformance, yeah.
Specifically us, with the state modular standard for STDG performance with the interface. All of this we need to meet these requirements, and these are what's acceptable again. We're finished with three things marked as minor and initial major license fail start. And they go through all the data, all that stuff.
Whether there's a CSA or SEC or products, that's I don't know if I can test that. Have to follow it. You have to modify it based on the product as well. Customers, they want to modify it for this ad point.
Definitely.
That's usually where we have more formalized.
Wrong key. And are you the acronyms that you guys don't know or follow? Just let me know. UAT. UAT stands for user acceptance testing. Incredibly common in contracting, where the company has been contracted to develop said widget or product. It's sort of that last step where you're presenting it to the customer. Are they actually going to pay the bill? So user acceptance testing often has a very strict test plan because you want to have gone through everything that the customer is going to go through before you actually do it with the customer. Kind of want to know the answer before you ask the question, like any good lawyer. So I put out another section up there. Most useful sections, because this is where I really want the discussion to revolve around is what is it from test plans that we've experienced in the past that we found to be the really useful sections? Where are we getting, as people highly involved in tests, where are we getting the most bang for our buck out of a test plan?
In our test plans, the most useful section would be the test cases themselves. The test cases are a series of steps and expected results that typically cover off requirements. And the reason they're useful is for two reasons. The first one is that we usually do like some sort of a base functionality test. So we got to do it. Does it work? So that gives us a lot of value. Does it work in most cases? That gives us more value. And then further than that, if we write our test cases for our steps in a story technical way, we explain what we're testing and why. Yeah. We can also aid a customer knowledge of the product and senior staff as well.
Is that legible to you guys? I'm facing the wrong direction, and it's the size on my screen doesn't really well to the size on your screen. So did I nicely summarize what you said there, Ben? Okay, so test cases can be is a very useful section.
Back to resource provisioning.
What makes resource provisioning a useful section for you?
Well, it tells you what hardware, servers, or things like that you're going to be going on to. It tells you, for instance, if you have security testing and you want security searching using the test system, I know that there's OAuth and things like that where you can only test against a live authenticator.
Okay.
In which case you need to have a set of test usernames. That's part of the resource provision. You have a mix of test servers and production servers. How do those all fit together so that you're not compromising live data?
Privacy issues now, the identified data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, there's certainly some value there to looking ahead to resource provisioning. I added planning there. It's not just provisioning. You're not just going to provision everything that you need and let it sit there statically. There's, for prime example, a server, if I know 2 different testers are both going to need the same server, I'm not going to spin up 2 servers, one for each of them, if they can dovetail their work nicely. Or if they can't, you have to make sure that one of them has something else to do while that resource isn't available, or you will have to spin up 2 servers. Ilya and I are running into this right now. I'm hogging the server and he can't do any testing. Other useful sections. I can reopen that document if we need reminders of some of the useful sections. Scope. Scope is a great one. I love scope. What's in? What's out? This one comes up here at Vendasa a lot. We'll have, because we often release partial work, we need to know what's out of scope, what's in scope. It may be that it is intended for this feature to work for all input file types, but for now it only works for CSV. You can only give us CSV. We haven't finished writing the Excel reader, or we haven't finished reading the tab delimited files, or the cuckoo birds delimited files, or whatever the customer wants. We've only done laugh. I was actually only partially guessing there. We had, here at Vendasa, we had a bug report come in that said, these files won't, if I submit files from Windows, they won't read. And we thought, oh dear, we missed platform testing. I'm like, no, I did platform testing. I know this works on Windows. We tracked it down and I opened up the file, and this file that was supposed to be comma separated was separated with a UTF character of a return arrow and a plus sign. That's how it delimited the field. I have never seen that before. It's not tab delimited. It's not new line delimited. It's not comma delimited. It's some weird UTF-8 character delimited. So yes, cuckoo bird delimited.
It's character separate.
Yeah,
Excel has the option to like not character.
And that could be useful in times that like other characters like comments in your database. Definitely an odd case.
Yeah.
Like that. Okay.
Typically put quotes around your sets.
Mm-hmm. I have seen cases where it's useful, especially when you're dealing with lots of foreign names and stuff, and you'll get names with both single quotes and double quotes in them. So you can't delimit your entire field with a set of quotes, and now you need to find some wonky character. The fact that this guy saved this file with the wonky character is, you didn't know you'd done it. You thought you saved the CSV.
So with scope, you also have the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Does the testing have to be done by a specific date? Do we have, so there's both time and deadline. want to separate those two up because they're particularly important. Priority, yeah. So if I'm working on a deadline ticket right now, it has to be tested by the end of the day. I've got meetings all day. This is going to be fun. So we got test cases, resource provisioning and planning, scope. Those are all some very useful sections. How about we flip this around for a moment? Let's go to drop sections. Are there any sections from test plans that you've worked with that you never found any value in? You may have wanted to drop them, or you actually have dropped them? Sure.
I found, I didn't see much about test cases, but once I'm here, these test cases here, these test cases everywhere on that company.
We do, we just don't do them the same way.
Yeah, it's not the same as we were. And I found that to be.
You found dropping test cases?
It was very hard to keep them up to date and what you not send updated test cases.
So this is particularly relevant because Terrence is now working in a near continuous deployment environment where a feature, once it's done, may not stay done. It will change. So the test case can't, once something's developed, the test case isn't something I can go back to verify that it still works correctly because its feature set may have changed.
So how do you know that you tested correctly? It's a moving target.
So you don't have any cases.
No, that's not, so it's not to say that Terrence doesn't write stuff down and that we don't record things. It's just that we don't have, so here at Brenda Astor, we don't use what people would outside of here would call a test case. We don't have defined steps. We don't have expected outputs. We have I expect to be able to do said action. So we have scripts, but our scripts are, you must be able to post to Facebook. You must be able to get a Facebook mention. There's no steps on how to do that, because the steps on how to do it may change from week to week, but the underlying functionality must still be there. And you may test it a little bit differently every week, and that actually gives us better test coverage. So to say that we get rid of test cases isn't quite true. We've gotten rid of test cases with steps.
The broader ones actually, I tend to find more issues with. So we have a release script for products when we release it. One of the steps in it is make sure that the nodes roll out in the correct so that we look at the entire code and make sure that the numbers are we roll out that data in probably 20 different spots. We write steps to check every one of the different spots, and then we found I would go the same and finish it. But if I go today, I'm going to look at this screen. I find more times than just going through the 1, 2, 3, 4. This time I'm going to handle it this way, and pay a different brand each time, and it tends to be finding one.
But that's not really our test cases, that's test case management. What you're doing is you're.
That's why I reworded it, because it's test cases with steps. We still have the test cases. We just haven't laid out, these are the 18 steps that you're going to do, and this is the expected result on each of those 18 steps.
Yeah, I often break down the difference between test case and test procedure. So a particular test case covers a thing, and the procedures allow you to move between things.
I've never heard that distinction. So, yeah.
So when I heard you describe it, you check to make sure it's all correct. Initial response to that, if you were trying to do that, you would do it correctly. And that's what I look for the steps for the story to help them understand. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep it.
Mark
Yeah.
has only one of them, so once I've learned it, it's, yeah, we have a lot of training on it.
Right, yeah. And then it's just kind of, I guess, implementing. And then you can learn fast. That's good. Yeah.
No, and Ben points out some very strong weaknesses that we hadn't really noticed here at Vendasta until recently when we tried to bring 4 people on all at once. There's only so much one-on-one teaching you can do to 4 people at once to teach them the intricacies of what does this test case mean. So we'll probably never bring back test cases with steps here at Vendasta, but we will probably go to more explanation in the test case as to what is meant by roll-up. The test case will still be check that roll-up will work, but 3 months down the road, we'll probably have an attached note to that test case that says expected. Here is an example of an expected roll-up. Because we deal with temporal data a lot, expected answers aren't really something we can ever provide because that was the right answer last month. It's not the right answer this month.
And that gets changing.
Yeah.
Like for us, we're very much requirement-based.
Mm-hmm.
We're building something for Comcast and they want to work this way. So that's how we operate. Yeah. So we build out those test cases, but then we have 6 months worth of test cases. And we luckily have 6 months worth of development that we've got to test, right? But then we have to start testing it. So, well, we just assume that. Yeah. So then there's even more work writing the stories. Like, oh, I assumed too much. Even.
Assumptions is the perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Assumptions
that's
is
a
a
big thing.
I wish
And
we
you
could
can
be.
pass those off to someone,
It's frustrating.
and they'll start going through it, and you know, the expected result is not exactly what it's like. No, but that's
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, assumptions, great useful section.
So you don't have spots where you got to deal specifically like data to be able to validate something, you know, this data has to go in there for this to come up. Or you just go like general case, so
We're
this is what
working towards some of that because our system, unfortunately, is still quite variable. Just because I have the same input data this week doesn't mean I should have the same answer, but getting to that answer might take an entirely different path. We have some don't get me wrong, we have some well-known accounts. There's a bar in Portland called Kells. We probably have 500 copies of that account here at Vendasta. We pretty much know what it's going to look like in all of the products, and so we could go towards that. But because, well, here at Vendasta, and this isn't the right answer for most businesses, but here at Vendasta, because our data is so temporal, today there are 365 online reviews for Kells. Tomorrow there's going to be 672 because they just had a big event. So they're going to get a lot of new reviews. All of the reviews that are on the front page today are going to be 3 pages back. And so their average review score is going to be different. The reviews that are on the top are going to be different. Their web mentions are going to be different. Their listings should stay fairly constant until take a dentist. Prime example is a dentist. Female dentist gets married, changes the name of her practice. Now all of her listing scores are wrong because the name of her practice doesn't match what Google says the name of her practice is or what Yelp says the name of her practice is. And so they have to, over time, it will constantly change. We fight with temporal data here a lot, actually.
And that's where your test data provisioning becomes so very important. And in the datacomms industry, we have to deal with that a lot. So we have devices that look like data streams. So literally a box with a paper quarter in it, and it would we play back the same data, so we tested.
Yes, the fridge has an alarm.
Yeah, breakfast.
And that way we knew that we were processing the data the same way for each different version.
That may work for some stuff, but a lot of our stuff.
Yeah, if I could guarantee that the data would always come back to me the same way, like if I asked for the same data from the external providers, they'd always provide it back to me the same way, we would very much be doing that. And we have done that to some extent here at Vendasta. The problem is Yelp redesigns what their webpage looks like every 2 months, and they break everything. So just because I can guarantee that I'm reading it the same way, doesn't guarantee that what I'm reading is the same.
So part of the testing you're doing involves having to go out to live sites with the ads.
We do a lot of gathering of test data for the developers to say, it's broken now. I know it worked last week. I know you didn't change anything, but it's broken now. Here's why it's broken, because Urban Spoon has changed from a thumbs up to thumbs down to 2 thumbs up to 2 thumbs down.
And the rating scale they allow no rating instead of only 1 star.
They've taken the phone numbers off so that you can't call the restaurants directly anymore.
They put the website, I know you can see the website,
That one's less unrealistic than you think. American businesses that expanded to Canada. We now offer offer services to Canada, but we don't know what an E with an accent on it is because we didn't think about any language other than English. We're dealing with a car dealer right now that has recently expanded into Canada, and you can't search for half of the car dealers in Quebec because they don't know how to spell them. So yeah, so assumptions, scope, resource provisioning, planning, test cases, really useful sections. We mentioned and made a bit of a case for, at least Terrence did, for test cases without steps. Any other sections that you haven't gotten value out of?
Okay, so in my mind, there's a difference between testing the software and testing the deployment of the software. And a number of those issues that you're bringing up is testing the deployment of the software. It doesn't test whether you're rolling up properly, or rather, you don't have an explicit test for rolling up properly, or aggregating data, or whatever it is. What you have is how it rolls up when it's deployed against today's version of Yelp. And those are 2 separate things. That's a confounded testing process. And it's really important in the test planning that you be able to either separate that or to identify if you are working with confounded data.
I think this would be a really interesting debate to have. And I'm struggling not to launch straight into it. I will give a short answer from the Vendasta point of view. And that is that if the data is static and if the data is we'll roll that up into something like a unit level test or a system level test that will let an automated verification system do for us. And we reserve testing for testing the more complicated things where we're looking for change that we may or may not be able to detect with an automated system.
Okay. So that's a really good distinction there between
So like, I know a full testing plan would talk about unit tests and functional tests and all of those automated systems that actually I have the right document here. Crispin, there we go. Just some slides from Lisa Crispin. She talks about the quadrants of testing and responsibility. So a lot of what you were talking about here at DASA, this quadrant 1 here would be solely the responsibility of developers. Testers wouldn't be involved in this at all, unless they were also testers who could code so that they could read the unit test to see if there was any value in them. Whereas testers would be more here at DASA. And this is different at every shop. I know at some shops, testers write unit tests. Testers write automated, fully automated suites of testing based in Ruby or Perl or whatever language that shop works in. This is not the style of testing I do or encourage here at DASA, because I hire for story-based testing, exploratory testing, performance and security testing, things that I can't automate.
See what you're saying.
So when you get into these other ones, yes, it's confounded testing, but our users are confounded as well. So we need to test the way they're going to see it.
And what you're saying there is that you've unconfounded. You're presuming that Q1.
I'm presuming Q1 is accurate and complete. It never is, but it's an assumption I have to make in order to do the other quadrants.
So that unconfounds the test. Thank you for clarifying.
Cool, not a problem. Yes. This PDF is by Lisa Crispin. She talks explicitly. She's from the Agile School. Lisa Crispin and Janet Gregory, these two people, they've written a really good book on exploratory testing. If you have any interest in exploratory testing, I have it in the library for the Sustain Testing Discussion Group. If anybody wants to read it, I can loan it out to them. Or it's available from O'Reilly. It's a very, very good book. But yes, I'll include these. I will be including several items. Of course, the mind map from today, this set of PDF and some links to some of the supplementary information that I read while preparing for today. A reasonably good article on test documentation in Agile and how more in an Agile project, more of the documentation is found in the strategy as opposed to the plan, because the plans tend to be smaller for smaller sets. An interesting article about how ISTQB defines and talks about test plans. A reasonably good article about how to write a test plan if you have to write large full-scale test plans. And there are some things I found in here that I like, that I'm going to include into my Agile process. One of the things I like about working in Agile, it means just because my process worked yesterday doesn't mean it can't be better tomorrow. I'm different. I don't have to nail it down and keep it that way for 6 months. So all of these resources that you see across the top of the screen here, there's a Wikipedia page on the far end, will all be included in today's show notes, for lack of a better word. Where was it? There we go. Excellent. So I want to thank all of you for coming out to our November gathering for a nice lively discussion about test plans. I can honestly say, well, we didn't come to any agreements. I think we heard some interesting arguments for the large test plan and for a trimmed down version of the test plan, for and against highly detailed test cases, which is almost an entire topic all unto itself. Maybe we'll cover that one in February when I don't have time to do a lot of planning and research ahead. I want to thank the few people who helped me out behind the scenes to get ready for today. I have not chosen a topic for December. We should have a December meeting. I don't recall its date off the top of my head. 13th sounds probably about right. No, it's probably the 20th. I'll probably move it to the 13th so that we're not all trying to go to Christmas. So Keep the December 13th. Is that what? That's a Saturday. That can't be right. It'll be the Wednesday.
It's 3 weeks from today.
The 11th. So probably the 18th. The 10th is so probably the 17th will be the next one. I'm aiming for the third Wednesday if you're trying to look for it on your calendar. I'm aiming for the third Wednesday of the month. Wednesdays are my easiest day of the week. And third Wednesday gives me enough time into the month that I'm not dealing with month end stuff or beginning of month stuff. And it doesn't. It does? I didn't know I had already planned this December one. I probably did a repeating event somewhere. I didn't know I had done that in a place that was visible to people other than me. Whoops, I'll have to check it. Thank you very much for coming out and having a lively discussion with us. If you want any input on to next month's topic, please let me know, and I will forward it on to the topic committee for us to discuss and hash out and do some of the pre-work. If you'd like to join the topic committee, please let me know. Thank you very much. Now I got to try to figure out how to turn this thing off.